supposed to feel. Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Round 9 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship, and we are off to Italy. We are off to the Cathedral of Speed as Monza plays host to one of the most important rounds of the championship. With just 2 90-minute races left to go, this is going to be absolutely pivotal for the slender lead that George Boothby has at the top of the title. My name is David Christie. It's my absolute pleasure to be here, slightly different, in our very own home country of South Africa for tonight's broadcast, along with our broadcast producer Daniel Costello. But it's business as usual for our co-commentator, and a very warm welcome back to Joe Peake. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great, and I love when we have races coming to Monza. It's the Cathedral of Speed, and it honestly puts on just incredible displays, and the drivers really have to test their accuracy through here, because you need to get your braking just right at the end of these long straightaways.
I'm also delighted to say that it's a full complement here in the commentary booth. Also down in pit lane, it's a very warm welcome to Taps, Tapello Marioli. Taps, great to finally get you back, buddy. Let's hope for a great race tonight.
Most definitely. Monza always serves a good show for everyone, and I hope this is going to be one of the classic ones again.
Awesome stuff. So in the meantime then, this is the calendar. It's getting to the nippy end, as we would say in Scotland. June 5th, today we are at Monza, rounds 9. Round 10 is going to be at Spa, Watkins Glen then on rounds 11, and we head to the Green Hell, Nordschleife, at the end of June. This is going to be absolutely epic. This is the prizes, Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship, $1,250 over the prize pool, $530 for the winner, 3-month Coach Dave Delta subscription, plus those IMB gloves. You've then got $325 for second place, with socks and keyring and a Delta sub as well, and then all the way down to 6th place. So everybody wins, and a huge thank you to all our commercial partners for making this happen. IMB Racewear, Coach Dave Delta, and of course Genesis Extreme, proud suppliers of Immersive Labs. But without further ado, I think that it is time to go and check last round's highlights. So for the second time tonight, and hopefully the final time tonight, round 8 of the Genisus Kaizen Championship is underway here at Donington Park. It's a great start for Riley, but it's an even better start for Caracas as they go down into Redgate for the first time. Certainly much closer. That's a little slip from the leading Ferrari of Riley. Caracas is going to try and drive round him here at Hollywood. Niatson's been absolutely annihilated. That was contact there, and possibly connected to what happened earlier on, but Riley's still in the lead of this opening lap here. Let's have a look at Bauer there. That is just, you hate to see it. You hate to see it. Bauer, and it looks like that was Jonathan Clifford. Oh, this is starting to get a little bit fighty right now. Giovanni Porcio gets absolutely nuked and then bumped by a teammate for good measure. I believe that was Philippe Duvillard that was into the back of that. No, it was Henry Meyer, because Henry Meyer is now facing backwards, and we go back to this fight for second and contact from Florian Durkop on the Cody Sherritt, and surely that's going to be looked at. That looked like a very late and a very clumsy move, and Cody Sherritt absolutely furious with what just happened there. I think the 19's going to have taken the lead here. We'll wait, because it's a long pit stop. It's a long run down pit lane. I think he's got him. He's going to be up to speed. Oh my God, it's so close. Wow. What a fight for the leads here. And to be fair, Grandes Caracas absolutely timed that to perfection.
To him. And if he had just been, again, a 10th or 2 up the road, he would have been in the lead right now, as Boothby is still fighting hard with Shada. In fact, Shada clear around the outside of Coppice. I have never seen that.
Up the inside from Florian Durkop. Can't quite make that happen. Tries to get the old comeback on Luke Addison. Right to the back. Moves one way, then the other. Durkop moves to the left-hand side as Addison clips across the curve there. And have a look at that. Valentin Barry wants to get involved in this as well. This is what I was saying. It's always the car behind that takes advantage, and it looks like possibly going to try and take 2 of them there. Luke Addison on the inside coming through. The front of the S's. Oh my good God almighty. That is a horrible,
horrible crash there onto Luke Harrison. Then Valentin Barry is just like, oh, thanks so much. You're so kind, guys, leaving that gap for me. And to be fair, it wasn't deliberate.
A little bit too far into the Melbourne hairpin.
Yeah, Zach Doran gets the cutback, tries to cut along with him, but I think that McLaren is going to have the job done here into Goddard's then, as the BMW does try to go around the outside, but no such luck there. That car just coming across the line just now, 12.7, as Noah Ader has absolutely sent Amadeo Castorino off into the grass. That car comes flying back on, and that is absolutely huge for your championship. That is second place in the championship that's just been taken out of the race here, and it's going to be indeed a lights to flag victory for Jonathan Riley here at round 8 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. Second place for Grantis Caracas. Maciek Malinowski in third position. He'll finish just about 13 seconds off of them.
So there we are, a very, very messy Donington, and that means that George Boothby's lead at the top has been reduced there. That midfield finish takes him down a couple of pegs there. Amadeo Castorino now just 16 points behind your championship leader so far. Maciek Malinowski still in contention, 517 points. Grantis Caracas getting a great result there. Mikhail Statsenko in P5, Tommy Rozier in P6, Valentin Barry in P7, Philippe Minard in P8 with Jaroslav Honzik in P9, and then Tariq Adam rounding out the 10 for Genesis. And there we go. So with all of that said and done here, obviously, Joe, we are coming to the real business end, the real, tight end of proceedings here. There's no messing about now. Everything counts here, and Monza is one of those tracks that it kind of leads to mistakes happening.
Well, it can lead you getting involved in all kinds of trouble out there. It looks simple on the surface. It's a bunch of long fast sections with a couple chicanes thrown in there, but that means that everybody's, like I said, going to be trying to hit their marks as late as possible. And when everybody is bunched up at the beginning of the race, this place is notorious for those chicanes causing all kinds of problems. So you've got to keep your wits about you for the first 3 or 4 laps, and then hopefully you can settle into a rhythm from there.
You certainly can. 3.6 miles, of course, for the road course. As you said, deceptively simple as well. You look at the map and you think, oh, that's absolutely fine. But then, there's the meme of the first chicane. GT3s at Monza is always a bit of a running joke. But then you've also got the variantes. You've got the Lesmos, and then through into Ascari as well. Even round to that giant, long final corner as well. This is probably one of the biggest tests for racecraft, I think, for these drivers here.
Certainly. And, it's also going to require them to have a bit of wits, because they'll need to be watching their fuel consumption. Sounds like we've got a little bit of a guide around here. So why don't we take a lap around Monza to kind of show you what we mean. So here is our Monza track guide, starting out with the main straight, coming down into the Redifilo chicane. We talked about how this can be so tricky, and that's because it's a very tight chicane on top of it being at the end of this straight. Definitely have to be looking for those boards and make sure that you are spot on there. If you're offline, don't forget to back it up just a little bit. Watch out for those tall sausage curbs at the apexes that can knock you offline, and you could just wind up clattering into the car next to you. Then we got the Curva Grande. Flat out easily in these GT3 cars. Hug the inside of it. Just try to minimize the scrub speed loss, and then stay on that right-hand side. As we come into the second chicane here, we've got that brake marker on the right-hand side. Now you can take quite a bit on this first apex. Second one, much taller curve. You don't want to do that. And then it has a bit of a curve on the exit of it. Don't want to wind up off into that gravel there to the left-hand side. Then we come into the Lesmos. These are deceptive. They seem like 90-degree corners. Seems very simple, but there's some banking in there, and they're each a little bit different. A little wider open for the first Lesmo. This one is going to be much tighter for the second Lesmo, but it's the more important one. Once you exit here, you need as much gas as quick as the car will grip up, because it's one of the longest straights. It leads down into the Ascari chicane. And you've got just a tiny bit of elevation change, what little bit you have around here under the oval before it rises back up and takes you into Ascari. This is the fastest of the 3 chicanes. This will really require you to set yourself up for the exit very well. And you can see you can take a lot of those sausage curbs, but again, it can upset the car, so you have to hit them right. And then here, look at how much he is going to just plow over the top of this thing. And that's because you want to open this up to try and lead yourself down on the long straight into Parabolica. Now, they've renamed it to Michele Alboreto. Honestly, it's been Parabolica for 100 years, so it's going to be Parabolica in a lot of people's minds. Another strange corner, which looks easier on the surface. 180-degree turn, but it's sharper on the entry, so it's actually an early apex compared to most hairpins. And then you open up the exit and try to get on the throttle because you're back on the main straight, where, again, you need every ounce of speed, David.
You absolutely do. Thank you so much, Joe, for that fantastic tour around Monza here. One of the jewels in the crown here of GT3 racing, and we are just moments away from heading down trackside, where it is going to be an incredibly important session that we're going to be joining the tail end of as well. Obviously coming into this, we know that we're right at the tail end of the season here, Joe, and obviously all the points matter now. But what we've also saw from the front runners mostly has been a very carefully calculated season, a very almost cautiously optimistic season for all of the drivers at the front. No bumping, no banging, to certainly more improved from previous seasons. Do we think that's going to last again here tonight?
I think they're going to try for it, but whether or not they succeed is the big question mark, because you can come into it with all sorts of plans, but I mean, will it be able to hold out once you actually get there and you set the car up and you try to send it into the corner and everybody around you also tries to execute on their plan, and that might not fit with yours. So I think it is going to be crucial that they try and take it easy and make sure that they get to the finish, because if you mess this one up from the beginning, yes, you can make passes from the back, but any sort of damage you do to the car that's going to cost you straight line speed, it's almost going to make it impossible to climb back through the field.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the case. And of course, with this track being so absolutely treacherous here, it's going to be a wild ride for sure. Obviously, as we said, we've spoken about the championship and how it's coming to an end here. But looking back on what we've had this season, we've had some absolutely cracking races this season. Obviously, thinking back to seasons 1 and 2, those were really good to look here. But I think so far, season 3 has far and above eclipsed the action and possibly even the drama that we had in seasons 1 and 2.
I mean, yeah, you just look back at the last race, you talk about the drama. You described it as a bit messy out there, but also we saw some of our front runners make some kind of silly mistakes. You saw that punt off the track coming down into the final chicane, which caused a big penalty. And it's things like that you need to watch out for. Championships are often made on consistency, and part of that consistency means simply making sure that you don't make those silly mistakes that have huge knock-on effects.
Yeah, and obviously we've seen race control getting involved several times, and I think a lot of drivers using up their good luck and goodwill from the stewards with some of these very silly incidents that we've seen over the past couple of weeks. But for the most part, I think they've done themselves very well. Certainly, some of the tracks that I was expecting absolute chaos with, it was a little bit quiet for them. But we've got just a couple of rounds left to go in the championship. Obviously, after this, we're off to the final 3 rounds: 60 minutes of Spa, 60 minutes of Watkins Glen, and 90 minutes of Nordschleife. Joe, I really don't think that is an easy end to the season here. If anything, I think they've kind of saved the best for last for our viewers.
Oh, they 100% have. And I love that we're ending at the Nürburgring. I am a big fan of the ring, and making everybody who needs to fight for a championship have to show up there is almost the perfect way to force everybody to really show what they've got underneath them. It is the ultimate driver's test, and if Yes, it's unique, and it's going to bring out some of the specialists who are good at that track in itself. But if you're simply a good driver, you can make a difference there as long as you've got it memorized.
I would like to also confirm here, Joe, for the benefit of our viewers, that we are not going to have any fog at Nordschleife. So there's a little bit of a boost for that, joking aside, obviously, it's fantastic. Like, I am a huge, I can wax lyrical about the Green Hill. And the fact when I learned that was going to be the season finale, I was just absolutely beyond myself with excitement, because it is one of the... It's almost like a Zen-like experience, Joe. Once you learn the track, once you learn the flow of the track, it's absolutely incredible.
It really is. And I'm watching the qualifying right now, and it does look like we've got Malinowski on the provisional pole currently, and it's by about 0.2 of a second. At a track like this with so few corners, yes, it's a bit of a long-ish lap. That's kind of surprising. Usually the time differences come down to 1/10, if less than 1/10 of a second. So something from Maciej has really clicked here, and he's put himself a bit of a distance from Riley and Caracas.
The other thing as well is with all of the action that's going on, I'm delighted to say that we've charged up our transmitter down in pit lane, and Taps, we should have you down there, buddy. Obviously, qualifying going on at the moment. What is your thoughts on Monza? Is that a track that you enjoy? I think
it's a track I genuinely love, and I think you guys said it already. It's deceptively easy to the eye. Yeah, can you hear me now? Perfect.
Loud and clear, loud.
It's a track I love. I think it's a challenge for the drivers for a couple of different reasons. You need to get it right. You need to be perfect. And that's where it catches up to you. So I love watching racing here. I've driven it so many laps around this track. I think it's brilliant.
Awesome stuff. Well, round 9 of the championship, we will be heading down into qualifying very, very shortly. It is still underway at the moment. We're just resolving a couple of issues behind the scenes just now, which is always the way. I'm getting blamed for it, by the way, guys, because as you know, I'm over in South Africa for this week, alongside our very own broadcast producer, Daniel Costello, and I have had actually a little bit of an impact this week. I've broken quite a few things, so it's all going well.
Did you pour too much scotch and accidentally splash it all over our director's PC? Is that what happened?
Well, it's funny you should mention alcohol, Joe, because there's a bit of a social tradition here in South Africa it's called a braai, which is where it's a barbecue and everyone gets together, very social, chilled affair, and I think we need to get a community braai going here for the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. The end of the season, invite everyone on. Let's get everyone on Zoom, and we'll get a community braai going. Get some fun races up there as well. I think me and you, Joe, and Tap should get involved in this, and I'm kind of scared what they might do to us given how we've been commentating this season.
Exactly. Well, I am one who likes to be a bit adventurous with food at times, so whatever local delicacies maybe that Daniel could try and treat us to, I'll give a go at. But I'm with you. I'd love to have us all there together. Hopefully someday. It's definitely a country I'd love to come down and visit, and eager to especially go and get to see Kyalami. Is one of the tracks in my 20s of sim racing when I was playing Grand Prix Legends. Played a lot of that circuit, as it was one of my favorites, although it's a bit different now than that version. So looks like the drivers are just finishing up their qualifying laps because they've gotten the checkered flag now. And Malinowski's still on the provisional pole with Castorino now up into second. Riley gets displaced there, and it's much, much closer, more like what we expected at only 0.5 of a second between the top two. So drivers now just going to wrap this up as they are allowed to finish the hot lap. It looks like Malinowski and Castorino able to complete theirs. Oh, no, excuse me. Castorino is in pit lane. Malinowski is out on the track, but he is on pole, so he's sitting in a better position. Boothby's just finishing his, and he actually jumps up into third, so that was important for him. He will displace Riley up there. Malinowski is going to be the next one down to the line, and like I said, already holds the pole with now, it looks like the top 5 have finished up. He is going to complete this lap in that 992, and as he crosses the line, looks like he does not improve, so that is it for him. And it looks like the session is now over. So that is everybody who needs to complete a lap. Hopefully we'll be moving over soon to the race session to see how everybody will do here today with a 90-minute race, slightly longer than what we have had in our standard 60-minute race.
Yeah, again, just to apologise to all of our viewers, we will get trackside pictures on the video as soon as we possibly can. If you have just joined us, a very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are here at rounds 9 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship, as we're getting a few messages from Race Control coming up. So that is that's interesting there, Joe. Some notices about warnings and penalties, but for qualifying infringements, now that's not something that we see an awful lot of. It feels, you know, it's almost like a freebie, isn't it? You know, it's a bit silly giving away penalties before the race has even got underway.
Indeed, and it's a warning for car 9, it looks like, for causing a collision, and it involved the 992. I was afraid at first maybe Malinowski was going to lose his pole. And then between the 46 and car 23 for impeding, 46 gets 5 seconds. I'm trying to find who that is exactly here, and that is Noah Ader. So, that's going to sting because he's starting in the top 10. But I believe, I guess we shall go through our starting order for today's race. So, again, apologies. It looks like we don't quite have the pictures yet, but as soon as we get them, we'll bring them up for you. So I'll go through it verbally for you at the moment. And Malinowski is going to be starting on the pole with Amadeo Castorino starting in second position. George Boothby will start from P3. Again, had a bit of a rough day last time out. He's going to have to make up for that, see if he has more speed than he did at Donington. Jonathan Riley starts in the 4th position, and Tommy Rozier in P5. Grantis Caracas will start in P6 with Marco Bischoff in the 7th position. Noah Ader starts off with a penalty there in the 8th spot. That's not going to be fun, as Abe Santema is going to be starting in 9th position. And then Valentin Barrier, who's usually good with his consistency and better race pace, had a bit of a bad time back at Donington. Let's see if he can turn that around from 10th here today. Jaroslav Honzik is going to be starting in 11th. Peter Duvalar, one of the last to qualify, will be P12. Tobias Moberg will start from 13th position. Then he's got Luke Addison to his outside there in P14. Tariq Adams starts in the 15th spot, followed by Zach Doran in 16th position. You get to Noel Hashe in the 17th spot, followed by Jonathan Clifford on the outside of him. Top 20 going to be rounded out by Finn Zimbel, and then you've got Bernhard Bakuzen in the 20th spot. Chris Radke going to be starting after that. You've got Ronaldo Boersma in the 22nd spot. Sebastian Louis Alexander will be 23rd. Jen Roussel will be in the 24th spot, and then only 25 cars today, so slightly smaller field. Might be a good thing coming into that first chicane. Roland Stein going to be starting at the back of the field, just waiting for the cars to roll off on the pace lap. They got about 30 seconds left here to get ready and get going out on the track. Doesn't look like too hot of a track as well, David, at only 27 Celsius right now. So that should mean decent grip, I imagine.
I would imagine so as well. Do you know what's awesome is the fact that this reminds me of like the old school radio broadcasts as well. I swear, if you could see what I'm seeing here as well, it's a fascinating insight behind the scenes, but behind the curtains. It's the amount of technology that's used to make this happen. Very, very animated Daniel Costello behind the scenes here tonight, so he is working very hard. But regardless, we will bring you all of the action. If we will get to the video eventually, but we will make sure that you do not miss any of the action, even if we have to describe it, even if we have to orally paint you a picture. We will do that, and we will make sure that you keep up to speed with everything that happens here on round 9. So I would imagine with all the cars gridding up now, they will be very shortly heading out on their formation lap then, Joe.
Yep, then they've taken off now. Malinowski going to lead them away, and he's going to see if he can lead them into the first lap. I want to bring in Taps in again if he's still around and get his thoughts as well. Taps, coming into that first chicane into Redafilo, what would you do, especially if you're in that mid pack? How would you approach it?
Unfortunately, I think we need to go and run down with some more batteries to Taps. He's maybe actually on the phone, to be fair, instead of watching the race. But we will bring Taps in. But I'm going to jump in. I'm going to steal that question in. What would I do? I'm a terrible sim racer, Joe. I'm very, very slow, so I am outbraking everyone. I might even straight line that first corner and absolutely go for it. So yeah, that's what I would do, because sometimes even to be safer, you don't have to take that chicane. You can slow down completely and just sort of go through and avoid all the chaos here. The problem with that as well, though, is it is a massive bottleneck, because it very quickly pulls all the cars back up together, and 9 times out of 10 the accidents that you see here so commonly at Monza are because of that concertina effect.
Indeed. So I'm sure they're all going to be thinking about that. Now, it's not a standing start like you'd see with Formula One, so they're going to have a rolling start, and that might help it a little bit for our drivers, but it is still going to be quite the pack up down into that first chicane. So everybody's going to have to make sure and mind themselves into there so that they can get past it. And then they can focus on the 90-minute race, try and make sure that they use the right fuel strategy if they want to fall in behind somebody, and just use the draft to save fuel throughout. But we'll see if anybody tries those sorts of tricks as this one carries on. We'll probably see some trains form up, that is for sure, as it looks like they're going to be going too wide soonish. They're just out of Ascari.
Yeah.
So as the drivers now come on into that final Parabolica, Malinowski is going to line up next to Castorino, seeing what he can do, making sure to back everybody up, get a nice, good formation going into this first corner. Apologies, I am also trying to sort out just a couple of technical issues on my end, make sure that I get a proper picture on this one. So hopefully we can get this sorted in time by the time they get going down into that first chicane. I'm pretty sure, Joe, that somebody has run over a burial ground or something like that this week, because this is we've had a lot of fun trying to get this started here. But obviously a 90-minute race that we're going to be getting underway, and it will be literally underway very, very shortly. That run down to turn 1, that run down to the first chicane, that's just the start of their problems, really, because once they exit down there, it's full throttle on the power, and the first 5 minutes of the race is always everybody jostling about trying to understand what's going on here when you think about going down into, say, the second Variante and then through into the Lesmos. All right, it looks like they have started down into that first chicane, checking to see if we had any issues going back through the field, and so far so good. It looks like everybody managed to make it through. Malinowski now leads down toward the second chicane with De La Rocha here with behind him. Castorino, excuse me, as he is barely going to be able to make it through, being challenged behind him by Boothby and Riley. Neither able to go by. Boothby just ahead of Riley, third and fourth position, coming now into the Lesmo chicane. Malinowski using the opportunity to try to run away from them as he is 0.3 of a second ahead and has a few car lengths. They exit the second Lesmo now, and it is Malinowski, Castorino, Boothby, and Riley, your top four.
Beautiful, beautiful start. That's exactly what you want. You want a nice, consistent start on this opening lap of the race here. You need to get the punts in early, get that gap opens up, and just leave them to fend for themselves here. That's what you want. And the problem is when you don't get that, when you get sucked in to all the battles here, Joe, it makes it so difficult to concentrate on your own race because you spend the majority of the time looking at everything that's going on. And I'm delighted to say that here we go with live pictures just as we go to finish the last lap here, Joe.
Love this. So now we are in it, and there you see our leader, Malinowski, in his Porsche, leading Castorino with Boothby behind. That gap now increasing between them, but Riley is on the heels of that purple Ferrari. You could see it in the background. This is going to be an important one for Boothby to take a win for the Tifosi, and they'll break down to the Rettifilio once again. Riley not close enough to attack, still the 992 leads.
There we go then, coming out of that first chicane then for lap number 2. Maciek Malinowski leads Amadeo Castorino, George Boothby in third, Jonathan Riley in fourth position, Tommy Rozier in fifth, and Grantis Caracas in sixth position. So Noah Ader already getting that 5-second penalty for that qualifying infringement. And Joe, my goodness me, it's so tight here. But to be fair, it's like, who are these drivers? That's incredibly well behaved.
Yeah, you can see Bischoff leading Ader, Barrier, and Honzik as they go too wide, coming down into the Lesmos. In fact, too wide, too deep there for a second. Barrier under threat, it looks like, is Honzik behind him, trying everything he can in that one. And it might actually have been Moberg, Moberg there behind Barrier for just a brief moment. Now, they got to remember, Ader has a penalty, so they don't need to fight him too hard. He's got to get 5 seconds back. I'd say give him a little bit of leeway, no reason to get tussled up, and wait for the pit stops.
And that's exactly it, Joe. You want to keep it nice and calm. You want to think about strategy. You want to think about the plays that you're going to be making through the course of this race here. And obviously, with it being a 90-minute race as well, you look at the gaps that have been opened up already. That's very wide from Hamilton, Barry and Aston Martin in the background there. Interestingly as well, we're seeing the McLarens. We see so many of the McLarens, and so many of them outside that top 5. Tommy Rozier, the leading McLaren at the moment, with the rest of them kind of outside the top 10. I mean, you've got Bischoff and Noah Ader there, but yeah, the rest of it it's kind of filtering backwards. But either way, look, lap 2, we were talking about off air, behind the scenes, we were saying, having our little commentator specs as we always do, about when we expect the chaos and the drama to ensue, and I think we've all lost quite miserably on that.
We have, actually, yeah. We're all pessimists because we've all seen the worst of things as commentators, and it seems as though the drivers have defied expectations, which is good to see. Honzik now, who we're looking at in 9th position, still behind Noah Ader, and unfortunately unable to do anything on Bischoff. A little bit of a kick up of dust there from Caracas up in front of him in his Ferrari. We're going to see a lot of that out of the second Lesmo. As we said, so important to get the runoff there, so drivers will be pushing the limit of that corner exit.
And the thing with that as well, Joe, is the fact that the corner exit is almost undeniably more important than the corner entry speed. And it's so weird as well because literally the past 2 days have been, putting that point over to drivers that are not sim racers, not professional sim racers. Sitting on a set course of competition, only talking them through a circuit and how to drive it. That's a big bit of contact there from Zach Doran. That was Noel Hache that tried to go around the inside there. And Zach Doran, unfortunately, getting a little bit of collision, a little bit of coming together between the two of them. But yeah, it's been so strange because, like I said, the majority of my days, oh my God, Jonathan Riley straight into the number 800 of George Boothby. That is going to be a very unfortunate incident. Do we think that was just a case of two cars in one corner just not going?
It could be. We came into it very late. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll get to see a replay on that one, as Ader still in this little fight. Oh my goodness, almost making contact. Honzik and Bischoff with him as they go three in a clump down into the De La Roja chicane. And unfortunately, it looks like it's not going to work out for Honzik, who has to settle in behind Bischoff and Ader. Remember, they don't want to fight that car too hard because he is going to disappear as soon as they get to the first pit stop. So unless he's severely holding them up, I'd say hold station from here. Also, just a note, I believe that was actually Clifford in the purple Lamborghini that we saw getting involved in that contact with Doran. But thankfully, they'll both be able to carry on as we watch Bischoff down through the Ascari chicane. Look at how much of those curbs they're able to take. These cars bounce around a ton through that back and forth section.
Yeah, and just watching them coming up to the Parabolica, which is, when you were talking about the track guide there, Joe, I'm 100% with you. For me, it's always going to be the Parabolica. But as they come through, it's a proper tow train going on right now. And what struck me is quite weird is literally all that chaos kicked off about 20 seconds after we were saying about how there was no chaos going on here. It's so strange how for the majority of the lap they'll play nicely together and they'll all be very, very prim and proper, and then it comes down to this and it's like they can't make their mind up, as we see Marco Bischoff going side by side with Noah Ader here, and that was a fantastic move, to be fair, on Bischoff, trying to get it there. But it's going to be Ader on the inside here. There's going to be in a drag race here, and look in the background, there's Valentin Barrier coming to have some fun as well.
Ooh, Barrier could pick up a number of spots here as Honzik is once again looking for it. 3 wide De La Roja, but that was a mistake. Look at Valentin picking his pocket, and he charges through. In fact, Moberg now is going to get involved in this one as they all head into the Lesmos, and he might be able to chop him off, just barely denies Moberg another position. But yeah, that impressed me from Bischoff because he came from the outside of the first apex. Usually when you do that, you're just going to get fed out, but he stayed with it in the tighter second apex and fought Noah Ader for that one.
100%, and that was absolutely riveting to watch. Just watching the way that they all managed to somehow make amends out of that, somehow make any order out of that is unreal. But for me, Valentin Barrier, he's so cheeky. He's just like hiding in the background, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to just take that position. Thank you very much." So poor Jaroslav Honzik getting mugged a little bit there because he's sent to the wolves, because here comes Tobias Muber. You've got Duvlar also on there as well, Abe Santima and Luke Addison, all ready to put that Aston Martin further down. The thing is as well, we can see in front the Valentin Barrier Aston Martin doing a grand job getting further away, but it's maybe Jaroslav Honzik's just not able to get the same speed in that Aston.
Yeah, this is, they always have a BOP that they try and update for these to make sure that the cars are as even as possible, but this is a track that favors that grunt, that straight line speed, that corner exit speed that drivers can carry. So it's going to make a difference. Abe Santima with Duvalar, I think. This is Addison that is just behind him. And Addison, in fact, is going to be able to duck down to the inside of the De La Roja chicane. He hangs tough around the outside of the second part, doesn't give up, and we've come back to Bischoff now a little bit farther up. This is back to Luke Addison once again, and has to give it up behind him. Tariq Adam, watch out for him. Again, it seems like once drivers in front of you start to get into a little bit of a battle, David, everybody behind is going to try and take advantage of it.
Oh, absolutely. I don't envy our broadcast producer's job tonight. So many battles all over the place. We're going to do our best to bring you all of them just now. Fantastic little queue just here with Santima, Addison, Tariq Adam and Barkhausen. Now, Bernhard Barkhausen, that is not a name that I remember, and I know I'm getting older, so that's a cut off in the background. Is that technical failure?
Well, it's Tariq Adam, and he bounded over the gravel. He's pulled off to the side, and yeah, now he's taken a tow, and that is it for his race. A shocker for Tariq Adam.
Wow, that's I wonder if he's maybe had a, because that's after Variante Ascari there, Joe. Has he maybe went over the curves and done some damage to it and maybe just decided enough was enough? But it's a very late point in the straight to pull that off.
Yeah, well, and like I said, he did go off track, but he just went across the gravel. Normally that's not enough damage to end your race, as some of the cars taking out a few of the barriers there, blocking off the runoff there. As we're going to go side by side. Clifford once again, this time side by side with Hache. So you just had a little bit of a crystal ball there, David, between the two of them. Hache is going to be able to take the inside of the first apex and chop him off at the second one. Nice little run. Did Clifford have a problem? He had a horrible exit off the corner. And now that means Boersma is going to try and see if he could pick this one up in his Mercedes round the outside of the first Lesmo. And wow, he does it the hard way and still makes the pass.
My God, the closing speed from Ronaldo Boersma was absolutely sensational. That Lamborghini was left very, very wanting out of that corner, and the Merc just gobbled it up every which way. Also, you were spot on earlier on when you corrected me about that Lambo. It was indeed Clifford that was involved with that BMW, because obviously that purple livery on that car compared to the Genesis esports car, slightly noticeable on that one. So great spot there, Joe.
Just remember, is Clifford the big purple Lamborghini? So if that...
Well, see, that's it. So you guys get that in America, because oh, right, no, wait, never mind, right, yeah, because, yeah, okay, right. It's been a very long day, so even I didn't get that joke. It took far too long.
Is that, I didn't know that was a specifically American thing. I'll have to remember that, okay.
Well, no, it's not, because then I realised you were saying about Clifford the Red Dog, and yeah,
yes.
I genuinely didn't get the joke, yeah, I'm so sorry.
Anyways, despite my poor humor, Marco Bischoff here is still behind Valentin Barrett and Noah Ader. Noah in 7th spot at this stage, still with that penalty hanging over his head. And still we see these trains of cars like we expected in this race, all kind of forming up behind Noah, just kind of running the race behind him. That's going to be Hanzik, Moberg, Guvelar, Santima, all in behind him. In fact, I'd say that Santima maybe is where you get that first break of cars in between them. Back up to Jonathan Riley in the meantime, chasing on George Boothby. Now, we saw George get kind of shunted off to the side early in this race, and that looked to be decisive, because look at the gap that he now has between himself and Castorino, David.
Exactly, and this is fascinating. You know, they're also bringing quite a little battle with them. The thing for me is with Castorino now dropping about a second behind Maciej Malinowski. Remember, that was about 0.5 of a second for the majority of the first couple of laps here. It is starting to eke out, but I mean, 1 second, Joe, that's absolutely nothing, is it?
No, it's not a huge difference for sure. I think it might just be out of the slipstream range. Speaking of which, it seems as though Boothby would like to be out of range of Riley, but unable to shake him at this stage. Caracas in behind them is not going to be able to try and make a move. It is 2 red Ferraris versus a bright purple one.
I've got a feeling that that's going to make our highlight package for this race here. I think also as well is, like I was saying, this week has definitely given me a newfound appreciation for how hard these drivers are sending these cars. You know, doing a couple of days of events on Assetto Corsa Competizione, and you really do get to appreciate how much work is.
Oh, sorry.
Jaroslav Honzik, yeah, with was that Noah Ader in the background?
I think that was Bischoff. Yeah, that was with Bischoff going off. They made contact on the way into the De La Roja chicane, and both of them unable to turn into the corner in time because of it unsettling the car. Sorry to cut you off there.
No.
So as drivers now getting more frisky later in the race than we anticipated. We thought the problems would be the first few laps. It seems like the gloves are coming off after they have completed the first 10 laps or so of this event. So Honzik remains behind Bischoff. Boy, he takes, again, a lot of that exit curb. Back up to Riley. He has Caracas trying to see if he can make the move into the Parabolica, and now Jonathan is going to go way wide off the exit.
That's a slightly optimistic line there, Joe. He's absolutely been done there on that final corner. Now, what does help him is the fact that he will be able to immediately get the toe back from Grantis Caracas right inside there. Caracas is going to be on the run for Boothby, though. But that's done. That position is done, and that is an unforced error there for Jonathan Riley. You've got to say, Joe, that's put him in that position. I feel really bad for saying that it was fairly quiet start to the race, because I mean, fair play, it's we're getting a lot of action here, but it's not the chaos that we would normally see here at Monza, is it?
No, it's definitely a bit different from what we're used to. Also, worth noting that Clifford now has a penalty for causing a collision. 5 seconds added onto his. So unfortunately, not the day he was looking for as he takes the blame. Duvalar on your screen right now. That bright orange pinstriping, gonna have to try and hold off Moberg as he defends on his way into the first Lesmo. And look at the cutback here from Tobias. He gets the inside of the second one, but just barely at all, shoving him off. Duvalar absolutely rudely moved into the gravel.
Peter Duvalar, I think, is not going to be having them on their Christmas list for very much longer. That was a brutal bit of contact here as we got two Genesis esports cars side by side clipping over the curb there, and this could go horribly wrong. Look at Marco Bischoff, gets an amazing run out of Variante Ascari there. This is the run down towards the Parabolica then, and Joe, this is honestly absolutely awesome. I cannot believe if we're going to have 90 minutes of this.
Into the braking, it looks like they're going to hold their tongues for this time as everybody stays in line. Addison following Bischoff, following Moberg up here, or excuse me, following Santima, following Moberg. Drivers getting close. Oh, we're going to be side by side down into turn one once again. It looks like, I think that was Boothby holding off now Caracas, as Grantis has really lit a fire under himself. He's overtaken Riley immediately. He is on the attack to try and get onto the podium, but it backfired a bit, and now Jonathan has a chance to try and get his spot back.
It feels like, though, Jonathan Riley, I mean, he'll stick the nose out, but he isn't really interested in trying to make the move unless he can actually get up alongside. And maybe that's the wise thing to do. Force Grantis Caracas into making a mistake. Force him under that pressure there. But my eyes are getting drawn actually behind, because have a look at Tommy Rozier. I can't tell because I haven't been paying attention to the time gap there. I've been too busy looking at like all the battles outside top 10. Is he actually getting closer? It did look like for a bit, but I think that gap is starting to go back out a little bit as we're watching Zach Dorn and this fight for P13.
And we had been watching this a little bit earlier on. I think Dorn involved with that contact with Clifford that has netted him a penalty, but Doran, interestingly, is the one that is farther ahead currently, even before the penalty has been applied. So the 110 is doing his best in this group. Oh, taking maybe just a hair bit too much of the curb coming off the right-hand side of the Ascari chicane. Slows him down just enough that Barkhausen is not able to, or is able to run away enough, and he's not under attack. What about down the main straight? This is where Zach could find himself enough of a run, and it does look good enough that he could try and attack. But here comes Zimbel in his bright green Lamborghini. Both of them going to pop out to the left-hand side as It looks like Barkhausen is going to cover the inside into the chicane, but he is not deep enough onto the brakes. Wonderful move from Zach. Oh, but he gets turned, and both of them are going to fall by the wayside as Zimbel is the one that gets both spots in a single corner.
I'm absolutely devastated with that. That was an amazing bit of play basically between the two of them. Is that Lambo giving a little bit of a boost there to Zach Dorn, trying to help him round the outside there. Zimbel, that's a big moment there onto the brakes, and Zach Dorn straight lining the chicane there. Second chicane, hops the car over the curb there, and this is getting really, really dangerous for that BMW. It's really in a dangerous position here because it's broken. You can tell from the lack of pace here. And you've got Barkhausen and Louis Alexander just behind, desperate to get past here. And that, my God, Joe, that is a train and a half of cars wanting to get past this BMW.
Yeah, it's Barkhausen who's trying his best. Ironically, it was Doran who wound up next to Clifford there. He's trying to run away at the front of the field. Barkhausen around the outside of Clifford into the Ascari chicane, switching back and forth between them as they clatter over the curbs. Much better exit here now from Barkhausen as they get ready to set up for the Parabolica. Bernard has the inside this time, but he's got to brake deep enough to try and get this one done. He sends it in as deep as he likes, covers off the apex, and he's going to have the spot. Maybe almost goes a little bit too wide there off into the paved runoff, and it looks like it's a good exit.
So just over an hour left to go here, Joe, and I've just noticed that George Boothby gets a 5-second time penalty. So that's going to be with that fight with Caracas and Riley here. So that's that's a bit of a scupper of the plans really for our championship contender here.
Oh wow, interesting stuff. So that is again going to hurt him. Remember, you talked about his gap coming down. Oh boy, they love this battle coming into the De La Rogia chicane, and Luke Addison had a right go at it, but didn't quite help him completely by as they continue to fight for what is just outside of the top 10. Addison just behind Bischoff, currently up through the second Lesmo. Chris Radke farther down in the field, another of our many Ferraris here on one of their home tracks. Just outside the top 20, Chris not with the best of races at this stage.
I'm watching this fight here, Joe, with third, fourth, and fifth position here, and you get the feeling something's got to give, because here comes Caracas up the inside into the Parabolica, and that's also going to be Jonathan Riley. You're joking me. There's no way he's just given up two positions just like that. That was almost like it was planned there.
I wonder if George, now that he knows that he's got that penalty, is just going to kind of ride behind them. Because, I mean, he's not going to drop them at this stage. The slipstream looks a little bit too powerful for that. So let's just kind of sit in, see what kind of fuel I can save from here, and see how it plays out in the pit stops, as that was a bit deep for Caracas. And that is going to cause him a bad exit out of the chicane. Jonathan Riley now moves himself back up into the third position, but the battle is not over. He has the advantage coming down into the second chicane, but he's got to be good on the brakes. He pulls over back to the racing line. They go single file once again.
I wonder if this is an inspired move here from George Boothby, actually, because he knows Riley and Caracas are going to fight tooth and nail for this position here. He gets to save a little bit of fuel and quite possibly take the position when they inevitably knock each other out here. Whether or not that actually happens is to be seen here, but yeah, he's not dropping back too far, and he's giving them enough space here to do their own thing. But to answer the question I was kind of asking earlier on there as well, Joe, I've just noticed Tommy Rozier. He is definitely starting to close in on this group now.
Ooh, good point. Yeah, you can see him in the pictures now, just starting to gain on them in that red, white, and blue number 29. All he needs is a bit more, and that is bad news if you're George Boothby. Yes, he probably wants to sit and save fuel, but he doesn't want to bring yet another car into this fight. Look at that poke out from Grantis, seeing if maybe he could do something coming into the Parabolica, but no dice this time. The return to the main straight, and George is falling off more than I expected here. maybe this isn't fuel saving. Maybe he got a little bit of damage on the car somewhere that we missed.
Well, it could be, given the contact that was that he's been penalised for. So it's possibly that car is quite badly damaged, or at least a little bit more damaged.
So interestingly, I'm seeing from the race director that it's not for contact. It says leaving the track and gaining an advantage is why he's getting that 5-second penalty. So I don't know if they actually did touch. They may have, and that still could be the cause of his lack of pace suddenly. But whatever the case, yeah, that's an interesting one there. Not something we've seen very often.
Yeah, well, obviously race control there, Joe, deciding that it was well outside their kind of thing of what they were willing to find acceptable. So again, we've really not seen that at all this season, but you're absolutely spot on. That car is dropping off here, and Riley and Caracas here starting to go away. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tommy Rozier in a couple of laps here trying to take that position there from George Boothby in that 5th position. But again, my eyes are not getting taken away right now from Jonathan Riley and Grandis Caracas. You just get the feeling this is going to come ahead very, very shortly.
Certainly has been feisty up there, so I do worry about them. We'll see what it looks like coming into the Parabolica this time. Is Grantis behind Riley, and last time he poked his nose out, this time he's going to stay put, maybe trying to set himself up for the pit straight. And he is a lot tighter to the inside, and while he is putting more scrub on the tires, it's a shorter distance, and Jonathan is being overtaken without the slipstream. That is an absolute shocker. Grantis Caracas moves himself onto the podium.
Unbelievable bit of effort there. So this is, and again, I don't think that this is going to be finished, because remember, we saw Riley getting past Caracas just a couple of laps ago with that move that failed on George Boothby, left them vulnerable, and that's why they moved over here. So at the moment, it's still fairly easy runnings right now for Maciej Malinowski out there in front. This is going to be some massive points. Now, we're not going to get too carried away with ourselves, with around about an hour left to go here. But for Maciej, it's, Joe, just a nice chilled race, I would imagine. He knows what to do. He's a seasoned professional here. He has been held massively to account by Amadeo Castorino, but still, this is the way you drive these Porsches, isn't it? In anger and getting the absolute most out of them.
Certainly, and I have to say, this is going to be fun to watch between them. And apologies for fans of Malinowski that we haven't really shown him up to now. But again, not much has happened up here other than Amadeo, as we keep calling it, just holding him honest for the current state of this race. We have so much left to go. In fact, we have a full race length left to go of a normal event still on the clock here. And Castorino and Malinowski both are very, very aware that this is going to be a game of who makes the least mistakes to try and take this win. So Maciej is probably trying to focus on his marks, make sure that he can just take this one home and not give Amadeo any sort of whiff of this win. He's clearly got the pace. He just needs to be consistent. Back to Riley versus Boothby. Or Riley versus Caracas, I should say, down through the Retafilo chicane. Caracas still leads on Riley, not able to take that one back quite yet. And the distance between themselves and Boothby is now up to over a second.
Amazing how that gap has really gone up with Boothby. Maybe it is just a setup issue. Maybe he knew that he wasn't really going to have the race pace like the others. But again, Boothby's a fast driver. He knows how to get the car set up. He knows how to get it ticking, and it's a weird one, isn't it? From what I notice here, Joe, because Boothby's either absolutely on it or he kind of disappears into the midfield here. Like whenever we speak to him, it's so cool because he's so humble and he's so honest. He's just like, yeah, I wasn't driving very good tonight, or yeah, I just didn't have the pace. I wasn't really on it. So a little bit unusual to see, but either way, I'll tell you what, it's not done any harm to the championship standings as we go. It's still, again, too early to make any calls right now. But Yeah, oh my God.
Oh.
That's a big moment for Grantis Caracas.
And Jonathan is back up to third with no fight there. Grantis, in fact, was so far off, he's going to lose another position. And there goes Boothby up into P4 as well. Wow, Grantis is going to be ruining that move there, unfortunately, as they'll cross the line once again. We're getting close to the pit window starting to open up here pretty soon. Now, can he try and get this one back? Because he's got a nice pull down the main straight. Is it enough? The two Ferraris into the braking will not change positions this time as they enter that first apex. The other thought that I had, potentially, is one thing we haven't talked a whole lot about this season, and probably the fans would be happy for that, is the BOP. I wonder if maybe sometimes the BOP just doesn't agree with George's driving style in comparison to others, and that's why we see him sometimes thrive and other times flounder.
And that's the dilemma that he always seems to have. But I'll be honest, I'd still happily have that dilemma given the pace that I've got. But yeah, there's more pressing issues, I guess, at that point. But pit stops, that's not something we've spoken about too much tonight here. Obviously, strategy will be coming into play a little bit earlier on as well. And I'm always curious as to how these things develop, because look, our job is to make this as exciting as we possibly can. And you know, we've done all these broadcasts so far, and it's like, yeah, how much of a difference is the pit stop strategy going to make? And realistically, it's actually not had all that much impact. Maybe one or two places changing kind of here or there, but it's not like we've had a definitive answer on what time to pit.
Yeah, it seems to vary even within the same race for sure. And I think what it comes down to is just getting the most out of your in and out laps, of course, and then making sure you nail your pit stop. Well, looks like we're going to see Caracas try to nail George Boothby for that fourth position. And he's going to be just slightly ahead as they come down into the braking. Wow, that was a late move and very risky from Grantis. Thankfully, George did not run into the back of him, but moving under braking, that's a bit of a no-no.
Yeah, it literally looked like just trying to close off that line there. And again, Tommy Rozier starting to catch up to the back end here. But what we've got to remember is Grantis Caracas made that mistake completely unassisted coming through the Variante Ascari here, as it feels like everybody's starting to get penalties now. Noah Ader's got a penalty, Jaroslav Honzig has got a 5-second penalty now as well. But for me, the fact that George Boothby now again maybe starting to drop behind that Ferrari of Caracas just a little bit might indicate that the top end pace on that car for whatever reason just isn't there. But again, tyres will be an issue. They will go wide, and I think we're still inbound for plenty of drama. The one thing that I've also noticed, Joe, 18 laps. How? Like, where is the time gone?
Well, about 35 minutes is gone, if we wanted to be exact on this one. With still time left to go here as we ride on board with George, looking ahead at Grantis, who has pulled a little bit of distance on him over this past lap. Now that he's managed to get ahead, is this where we see them separate? Because that mistake from Grantis has allowed Jonathan Riley to run away. And now these two almost need to focus forward, I'd say, David, to try and catch back up to that third place car.
Absolutely no contest on that one. There's nothing I'm going to say to dispute that, Joe, because you know what it's like yourself from your experience on the races that you've commentated on. That whole thing of driving in your mirrors, looking at the car behind you, it's so distracting, especially when that car behind you is Luke Harrison, who's trying to somehow simultaneously take all of the track up at once, trying to get past Marco Bischoff here. To be fair, though, I love the fact that Bischoff is just so cool, calm and collected and just completely ignores him.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of times I've seen the best drivers, that's all they got to do. They don't try and defend when there's nothing to defend. They just run their line until they know they absolutely have to. And, oh, do we have another penalty? Yeah, for car 7. That's Moberg for causing a collision. That's unfortunate for him. Pit window has also opened up now. So drivers who want to take that early stop, we'll see who's willing to take it as we watch Duvalar. This is coming down towards the Ascari chicane. Duvalar chasing Zimbal. Or excuse me, no, Zimbal's behind him. It's Addison just in front of him. And that's, I think, Bischoff as well. Yeah, Bischoff also taking quite a bit of that gravel on the exit. Just car bounding around as it kicks dirt up back onto the track. Coming up towards that pit entry here as they'll exit the Ascari, or the Parabolica. Let's see who decides to take it.
And the thing is, we're coming out of Parabolica as well, it's so important to get that run because, you know, it starts off your lap. All of your pace comes from that final corner on the run down the start-finish line into that first corner and through the rest of the lap. So if you don't get a good start to the lap, then yeah, you're going to be in for a bit of a bad time. And I know that sounds like stating the obvious here, but you'd be amazed at how much that is absolutely the case. As I think we've had our very first visitor to pit lane. I think that's Jan Rochelle in the number 77 Ferrari, as we've got another car in the background. That's going to be Louis Alexander in the 10 into pit lane. That Aston Martin, it does look like the wrap has had some better days there.
I was going to say the front of that car looks damaged and the back of Rochelle's car looks damaged. So I don't think it takes a Sherlock to try and figure this one out as we get a little bit of a battle with Abe Santima coming down into the chicane, and he will fend off Barkhausen for that 17th spot. It looks like we got a couple McLarens fighting in the mid-pack. Let's see who gets the run coming off of the second Lesmo, just slightly better for Abe.
So as we're coming round to the second quarter of the race here now, this is where the pendulum starts to swing here, Joe, isn't it? As we're still seeing this fight going on, Duvalar and almost, yeah, to be fair, he actually does manage to hold that off there and get that position. For me, the thing with that as well is the fact that for the 1-1-2 of Peter Duvalar, all he has to do is just stay consistent, just stay chilled. He can have that car behind him, make as much noise and as much fuss as he wants to. But that McLaren looks very, very comfortable right now. But it could be, no, I did think that was quite a far way back there. But that camera angle, very, very deceptive.
Yeah, these are long straightaways, so you're watching them come at you, and it looks like it is mighty close, and then they get there, and they're about 5 car lengths apart from one another. But still, we'll see drivers dive from a long ways back sometimes, as they will accordion together as well, coming from those high speeds down to all of about 60 or 70 miles an hour, sometimes even slower than that through some of these turns. Now, we haven't talked a whole lot about Valentin Barrier, and probably he wants it that way because he likes to have those quiet runs through the field. But right now, running in 7th, as I think that is Tommy Rozier just in front of him.
I think you're absolutely spot on with that one, as Maciej Malowski, 21 laps in the lead of the race. The gap now 2.7 seconds. We're going to be having, actually now, there's another penalty. Marco Bischoff, 10-second penalty. What is it about race control? There's always one race in the season, isn't there, Joe, where the drivers collectively just decide that they're going to make race control and the steward's life a misery. They're not getting any tea, any biscuits tonight.
I mean, it's kind of been 2 races, honestly, because Donington had plenty of them. Now Monza seems to be getting quite a few. I wonder if they're going to get a bit of a talking to post-race on this one with the driving standards, hoping to try and clean their act up. All right, Rozier stays to the outside. He doesn't try and defend it. Barrier gets to the inside, outbreaks him down into the first chicane, and that is a textbook maneuver from the purple Aston Martin.
thought you were right to say the Purple Clifford there, so I'm glad you didn't. But great move by Valentin Barrier there to get that position done. And realistically, I don't think there's much that Barrier can't do with this race tonight. He could very well easily be charging for a podium. It's going to take a hell of a lot of work here, but it's definitely possible. How often it feels like deja vu, Joe. Every week we talk about this, you know, about Valentin Barrier. He'll qualify, say, 10th position outside the top 10, and then for whatever reason, first half of the race, absolute charge, like absolute lap after lap after lap, everything goes his way, and somehow he's always able to get himself into a fantastic top 5 position usually.
I do enjoy drivers like that, mostly because it's more interesting than them qualifying at the front and just running away from things. But I mean, you do have to wonder if Valentin could get a little bit better at qualifying, where would that put him, both in the championship and in terms of some of these races. He is just very good on just watching out for his machinery and just steadily running his own race out there. He's now past Razier, who remains behind him, and Tommy's not been able to try and put a challenge on quite yet, although he could have a shot at it down the main straight. Neither of them going to take their pit stops this time.
Being honest with you, I think Valentin Barrier has already got that gap up to a point where Tommy Rozier would literally have to send it from about 2 weeks ago to have any chance at making that work. And he doesn't seem to be that type of driver. In fact, we know he's not that type of driver. But Tobias Moberg is one of the first in the top 20 to come into pit lane. Well, that's slightly a fit because we've got Marco Bischoff in 20th position who has pitted, but we're slowly and surely getting our way down as we're well under the hour mark now. Around about 45 minutes left to go in this race here, and the time's starting to tick away quite fast for these drivers, certainly for the race leader here, Joe. I mean, Maciej Malinowski now nearly 3 seconds to the good at Amadeo Castorino. Castorino will be absolutely delighted to take second place out of this one, especially with the pace of that Porsche up front.
This is Roland Stein, who started dead last on the field and is still out there in 19th. Now, this might be a bit of a false dawn. He has not taken his pit stop yet, so he's up to 19th, but we'll see after the pit stops if he cycles in back behind Rochelle, who is the last of the cars currently in 24th, having already been in and out. What about Abe Santima here in 14th? Currently, let's see, is that Hache in front of him? It does look to be Nick, who he is chasing currently. So got a little bit of a potential battle between a couple of our McLarens once again, just too far apart for anything at this point. And is that, yes, I believe that's Doran also in front of him. Boy, Zach has been kind of all over the place today.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a mixed bag for him today. What he can enjoy is the fact that he's had contact or he's been bumped by almost every single car on the grid today. Poor Zach is obviously.
Can he enjoy that though?
Well, he's in a BMW, so I mean, you'd think he'd be used to it by now. It's a big car. It's a big car. He can deal with it. He's fine. To be fair though, I mean, Zach Dorn, right? He's taken all of that abuse from the other cars, and he's still just outside the top 10. Now, yes, obviously pit stops are coming through, and yes, he will filter further down, but, you know, look, this is good enough to just get a couple of pictures for social media and just, you know, it's fine. I was there, look at this. Also noticing that Barkhausen, the 667 McLaren in 15th position currently, is another driver who's been absolutely slapped by the race stewards here with a 10-second penalty.
Ooh. Barrier is going to be, oh, is he done with it? Yes, he's done with his stop. So he's on his way out now and has completed his. Looks like Duvallard has as well. To your point about the penalties, right now, and I don't know if some of the drivers have come in and served theirs, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers with time penalties hanging over their heads currently. We're halfway through this race.
Welcome to Monza, folks. It almost seems quite fitting, but the weird thing is as well, Joe, it's like, yes, they've got lots of penalties, but it doesn't feel like there's been the madness that deserves 6 penalties. Now, and I need to make this immediately clear. In no way am I suggesting that those penalties are undeserved. I'm just saying it doesn't feel like one of those races where everything's been, smashing and crashing, and yeah, it's just obviously been these isolated incidents that are going on, and race control are just having absolutely none of it tonight.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we're in Italy. Maybe there's just been a bit of a mob mentality going on out there. Everybody's willing to flout the rules a little bit. I think Noah Ader is going to come in and serve his Doran pitting in just now with Zimbel in front of him. So we're seeing more and more drivers affect their strategy, get that out of the way. Bursma in 23rd position, one of those that has already been in and out, chasing on Louis Alexander down the main straight. Another Aston Martin that is very difficult to miss with that bright lime green coming down into the braking of the first chicane, but looks like Ronaldo is a little bit too far behind for anything there.
Joe, here's a quick question. What's happened to our race leader, Maciej Malinowski? Remember, that gap was like 3 seconds. It's down to about 2.3, and there's no traffic in front of him.
That is a good question. Not sure what his lap times have been looking like. His last one was a 48.2. There's a 47.4 for Castorino. So yeah, some sort of mistake. And we're not going to find out what this lap is because Malinowski is pitting in for his service.
Yep, so that is going to be that Castorino in that Aston Martin in second place, and there goes Jonathan Riley as well. So in fact here they all come. Caracas in, Boothby's in. It looks like Jaroslav Honzik is possibly going to stay out there. No, he decides to come into the pit as well. Well, it looks like, Joe, there's a party in pit lane, and unfortunately, we're not invited. That might explain why Taps has been so silent. He's obviously got the speakers on and organising a little bit of a DJ party for them while they come into the pit lane.
He's busy eating cake right now, as Abe Santima is the next one in. Yeah. Hashe. Okay. Nick is the only one of the front runners that elects to stay out this time. Malinowski just finished his pit stop and is returning. Looks like Castorino is going to follow him out as well. Let's see who else from farther back is getting ready to take a stop. Radke stays out. Clifford pits in. You're watching on board with Tommy Rozier, who has completed his pit stop, if I recall correctly. Yes, he has.
Yeah, I think that's the case as they're coming around the parabolic here. Tommy Rozier onto the back end. You can see here of Valentin Barrier, and the two of them, very little to show between them right now. What, about 0.2 of a second here, but Barrier is quite happy to be in front there as we've got the remaining cars into pit lane. Chris Radke is quite happy up in second place. He's having he's happy having absolutely none of it, but Malinowski has come out of pit lane ahead of Castorino, and again that gap's going immediately back up to over 3 seconds. So Abe Santima coming out of pit lane here, and now it looks like we're into basically the final countdown now as we're away to head into the final half of this race.
I don't think you want me singing that song, do you? But as we come down through Curva Grande here with Abe Santima, we've got a little bit of a battle. It looks like brewing. Some of it's all kind of screwed up right now because of all the pit stops. So I'm trying to figure out where exactly everybody is, because Santima is showing behind Zimbel. It just updated for me, so that's who he's chasing. We've switched up the barrier in front of him in the meantime, showing behind George Boothby, and that is accurate. That is 7th place. Now Radke and Hashe will pit, so that'll hand them back about 5th and 6th position. Still a bit of a surprise. George looking at a 5th place finish here if things end up how they are. And that's not to say that Valentin could also potentially jump him as we go even farther back now to Bischoff.
Yeah, it potentially could, and everything sort of should have, would have, could have here at Monza. There's a lot of things that could happen. There's a lot of things that are very unlikely to happen. And we're literally going to find out in the next 40 minutes just now. But Marco Bischoff trying to get a good run out of the Parabolta. I'll be honest with you, I think Jaroslav Honzik should, and I do emphasise should, have the better of Bischoff on that straight line speed coming down into turn 1 as well. So we've done all our pit stops. So at the moment then, Noel Hache and Chris Radke are your final cars that go down. And yeah, look, there's that gap from first to second place going back up now, 3.3 seconds. So yeah, I think that one is... it's a Sunday drive for Maciek Malinowski right now, isn't it? He's fairly happy. He's got the tunes on. He's chilling, as the kids say.
He's definitely seems to be content. Is this new? Is Bischoff? Did he just recently get a penalty, or is that maybe?
No. So sorry, just to say that that was as soon as he came out of pit lane, he got hit with that 10-second penalty.
So I wonder if he was just speeding in pit lane or unsafe exit out of the pit lane or something to that effect there for the number 2 car. So we'll see when. Well, no, we know that he can't serve that one, so he's got to try and just do what he can where he sits and see who is going to be 10 seconds behind himself. Luke Addison is the next one, back by about 3 seconds, so he is definitely going to lose at least that one position. And he's been dealing with Honzik in his Aston Martin just in front of him for some time now after these pit stops. He's thinking about it, but the McLaren decides it's not a safe enough attempt, at least at this stage, into Parabolica.
Do you know what, though? How close is he now? Definitely much closer. And that Aston goes wide out that final corner. So where it was looking fairly easy for the Aston to fend this off, this is not. This is going to now be a fight for position. But even with the slipstream, look at how fast that Aston Martin is in a straight line here. So Jaroslav Honzik able to comfortably, you have to say comfortably, hold on to that position down the start-finish straight here. Such is the straight line speed of that Aston. However, it's through the rest of the lap that Marco Bischoff makes up all his time here. What I'm loving as well, though, is if the battle for 5th position with Boothby, Barry and Rosier, and I'll tell you more about that in a second, because all right then, settled down 14th position. That's Frank Zimbel and Abe Santema. And to be fair, right, this is what I love about this championship. It doesn't matter where these drivers are in the field here. I mean, you get awesome racing like this. You've got Abe and Zimbel just, properly going toe-to-toe here. And usually, for the most part, it's all very, very clean there. And did you see what happened there? Zimbel had a better run out of that corner there. Santema came across there. There was going to be contact. Now, any other championship, you could have been right to see that that Lamborghini keep the foot in and just turn that car around there.
Yep, he knew he had to back out of it, and actually, I think took a little gravel because of it. So Zimbel's going to have to try and fight back to catch up to Santema. Meanwhile, just a few positions in front of them. We've got Duvalar behind Addison. Now, Duvalar, I believe, he is within range that he's probably going to pick up a position from Bischoff once that penalty is applied post-race. So this is actually a battle for what is 10th and 11th as it stands.
So with just over half an hour left to go here, Joe, I mean, it's difficult to see anything happening with Maciek Malinowski. Now, the time does come down a little bit because he is coming up, I believe, is that Ronaldo Boersma that he's going to... No, in fact, actually, that's Roland Stein in 21st position that he's coming up to put a lap on there. So I think once he dispatches of that car, he'll get a comfortable gap again here, excuse me. But again, for the front three, this has been a very, very, dare I say it, mundane race for them. They've not had any challenges. Casarino's by himself in second, and Jonathan Riley, since taking over that position from Grantis Caracas, he's got, about a 2-second gap there, and quite happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, when Riley pieced out, that's when it became a dull race for him. Otherwise, before that, it was plenty of excitement. But I don't think he wants that today, because he's certainly intent on running away from Grantis and George behind him, who gave him all that fun earlier on. As we continue to watch Duvalar chasing on Addison down into the Ascari chicane. Duvallard looked a little bit shaky there as we check in with Barrier, who is side by side with, is that Boothby? Yeah, that was Boothby. So George going to drop out of the top 5 unless he can fight back against that Aston Martin.
I wouldn't say no to it, but we've seen again how powerful that Aston Martin is in a straight line. The Ferrari will get the toe here. But there you go, the Aston Martin just cuts to the inside. Now that was late, early on the brakes there for Valentin Barrier there. I'm very confused by that. Did he just let him go by there, Joe?
Not sure. Maybe not as confident under braking compared to Boothby. Maybe just wanted to watch out for the car. And now, behind them, Tommy Rozier has finally joined the party. We talked about it being on pit lane. It has returned to the track. And let's see what kind of fun this celebration will have. Ooh, Tommy just kind of showing his nose a little bit in the braking zone, then coming back to the racing line. At number 29 has taken a long time to catch these two. Now that he's got them, will it be a quick dispatch, or is it going to be just as hard?
I'm not going to lie. See, when you were saying about Tommy Rozier coming and join the party and then immediately almost come and destroy the party in the same sentence, that was that was almost perfect timing there. But thankfully, nothing actually happened there going into that corner. I think also for George Boothby, now that he's actually got ahead again here, I do wonder if Barry is maybe trying to look after either his tyres, or maybe he's trying to cool things down. Maybe he just pushed a little bit too hard there, because it's strange how Boothby was under that much pressure, and now suddenly Barry is dropping off and coming under pressure here from Tommy Rozier here. So yeah, but again, I guess it just shows you it swings and roundabouts here in the Assetto Corsa Competizione. So many different variables being simulated by the game, and so many different moving objects for these drivers. And when I say moving objects, I'm not literally obviously talking about the cars there, but you know, the tyre temperatures, the brake temperatures, the brake bias, the fuel load. And of course, remember, as these cars get lighter with fuel, the handling characteristics can completely change. I remember way back in the day when I used to play ACC, which was many years ago, you know, I used to love driving in the Bentley, and the Bentley was, for me, it was one of the most stable cars that I could drive until you had about 3 laps of fuel left in it, and it was just all over the place. Now obviously these cars are going to be very different to that, but the same principle applies here. You know, the more fuel gets drained from the tank, the lighter the car gets, the longer you've been on your tyres. All of these things mount up.
Well, it's going to mount up in about 32 minutes to a winner in this race. The pit window has officially closed as well, so all drivers have completed theirs anyways, so they're done on that end. As we check back in on Duvallard with Addison just in front of him, battling for currently 11th, but will effectively be 10th. Bischoff has been overtaken by Honzik, I suppose, up there, because he is now directly in front of this group, and he had a car between them a little bit earlier on. But he's 4 seconds up the road. Again, not impossible that he could put a gap on himself to keep from losing a position, but from what we've seen, I don't think there's enough pace in that number 2 to try and run away, even if these pairs start battling a bit.
Yeah, and on that note, what we're noticing as well here, Joe, is the fact that where it was it was an epic start to the race, and we were getting a lot of battles here. Those battles have really petered out here now. Again, for viewers, this might not be one of the most exciting races to be watching in the final sort of 30 minutes here. But make no mistake, this is absolutely crucial. This is round 9 of the championship. There are so many points on offer here. It is literally all about every single position. Every single extra point you can get here, Joe, it makes such a difference, because it makes things easier, or it makes things more difficult for your competitors in this final space of the season. And again, you go back to what we were saying earlier, look at the tracks we've got left. You've got Spa, and then you've got the final race, 90 minutes of Nordschleife. If we get 5 cars finishing that race, I will be very, very impressed.
Oh, you've little faith. I'm pretty sure we'll get a number of drivers who manage to see the checkered flag on that one. But I think the one that concerns me is Boothby. because it's so totally changed. We've seen him run away with races early on, and now suddenly it seems like he can't seem to keep up with our front runners, and his lead in the points is being chipped away at by his rivals. They know that if they keep this up, if they keep up the good performances and George can't find that pace, they still have a shot at this.
With just over half an hour of the race here, Joe, again, is there anything left we think we're going to see from these cars here? Because, as I said, obviously we've got Valentin Barrier fighting with Tommy Rozier just now, but again, that's kind of fizzling away as well, as I may have got completely distracted there by the fact that Abe Santino has just earned himself a drive-through penalty. That's quite impressive, although not that difficult to do with track limits here at Monza, and that's almost certainly what that DT is going to be for.
Oh, man, that is just heartbreaking for him. But like you said, it's easy to go over those paved runoffs a little bit too few many times. And unfortunately, that will eventually catch up to you at this track. Everybody's dealing with the same racing surface. Everybody needs to try and stay within the boundaries, or else they will get one of those penalties as they go on. About Duvalar here with Addison. Is that Bischoff in front of him, actually? Is that I think that's a lap car. Yeah, because I'm showing Bischoff is still about 4 seconds ahead. So this could play a part in this, though. Addison needs to try and use this the best he can here, David. And we just saw the blue flag being waved there off to the right-hand side. Not sure who this is in front of them, but Addison, if he could use this car as a buffer and catch him at the right time, he could maybe run away a little bit.
And we've got a yellow flag. I think that we just had a huge moment there for Marco Bischoff there. Got going again there, but did bring out the yellow flag. And with this little battle here, again, I'm exactly the same as you right now. I'm trying to ID the car that is just in front. Almost saying, in fact, that back marker does move out of the way. The other thing I was going to say is, because you were making a point about George Boothby just a minute ago there before my brain completely shut down and I started talking about something completely different. But what I find so bizarre with George Boothby as well is that he has had a really bizarre race, hasn't he? It's like he's not got the pace to stay in the top three, but he's got the pace to avoid like staying outside the or dropping out of the top five. Do you think that's maybe deliberate, as that was a hell of a move there by Peter Duvalar?
Too much of a move.
Yeah, that's slightly over-optimistic, I think we'll call on that one.
Yeah, he'll give the position back. He knows he can't hold on to that one, unfortunately. Is that Moberg in behind them? No, it does not look like that is. It looks like that is a lapped car that they have just disposed of for the time being. So, unfortunately, we talked about being accurate on the brakes, and Peter discovered just how tough that can be sometimes on this one. Yeah, for Boothby, well, I think what is also interesting is that he was in that battle with Barrier, and then suddenly Valentin is just kind of nowhere, and he's dropped off as well, just an ebb and flow between them, and George is once again mostly on his lonesome, trying to run his own race. So I can't completely put my thumb on what exactly is going on with George here at Monza as we hop on board, looking over the dash of Peter as he continues to try and do what he can on Addison in front of him.
What I've just realised as well is, as it stands, as it lays right now here, Joe, Luke Addison actually going to take that final top 10 position there because of Marco Bischoff getting that penalty. He's going to drop down, and I would imagine actually going to drop down to P13 just behind Tobias Moberg, because of obviously Zach Dawn with that 10 seconds gap backwards. Yeah, that's not really going to happen.
Yep, I think you're right on that one. Bischoff has been trying his best, but he's still unable to run away from Addison. I think it looks like maybe about 8 seconds between Bischoff and Moberg. So again, possible that he could stretch himself far enough away that he could stay in 12th, but he's going to have to hustle. Oh, Hache is down deep into the first corner, and manages not to overrun it too badly. But in front of him, Doran is going to use that as his chance to try and skip away from him.
Just a reminder as well for all of our spectators at home, we do have our viewer participation draw going on tonight. The code is ITWeb, so ITWeb, type it in the chat, and you will get yourself into the draw tonight to win a $10 Steam voucher. And it's almost like that whole calendar of checking is the month got an A in it to see whether the original Assetto Corsa is on sale. You can buy the entirety of that with your $10 Steam voucher.
Yeah, it seems incredibly common. Watching Jonathan Clifford. Now, he had a penalty a little bit earlier on. Looks like that's only sent him down to 19th. And Chris Radke. Now, wasn't he way down the order? I guess he's still a little bit far back because he's in 18th, but I thought he was a bit farther down than this. So nice drive from that number 26 car. Now he's going to have to withstand the pressure of the big purple Lamborghini down into the Ascari chicane, who is putting the pressure on late in the race.
And this is exactly the time to strike, isn't it? Because of all the work that goes in. It really, really is. Because like we saw with Valentin Barrier, maybe it's a case of tyres falling off, but if you've got a little bit of something in the tank here, this is exactly the time to strike, because it's time to go, because everybody else has fallen off. Why not use up that last little bit that you've got in the car, that you've got in the tank?
I 100% agree. Malinowski up to 4.2 seconds now over Castorino. Knows that he's managed this one well enough. 23 minutes left on the clock, so might as well start using it up. Castorino unable to respond in that Aston Martin. And then behind them, it's another 5 seconds to get to Jonathan Riley, but that Ferrari is going to be the only Ferrari on the podium if things finish as they are, so Jonathan can feel proud of himself on that sense.
You know what I'm also thinking here as well, Joe, as I'm looking at the standings, I have, with the fact that George Boothby's way down in 5th and Amadeo Castorino is in 2nd place, one of the things I always wondered is, it's a slim gap. Are we going to see a new championship leader tonight? I think it might be possible. Now, bear in mind that my brain is very, very limited capacity right now. There's no way that any mathematics that I do is going to be correct. But yeah, also with the fact that it's just so close right now going into that final rounds, I think anything could happen.
Yeah, it certainly could. Even if he doesn't become the new leader, I mean, he's going to cut it down by a decent chunk. So for Castorino, just the man that keeps rifling off good finish after good finish, it could come back to just him being able to bring it home in these podium positions, race after race after race. And you think back to events such as Imola, where he raced in the rain to a win. It's it's stuff like that put him on course to an early potential championship. I can also tell you that Riley is still pushing. I was watching him on my screen, and he nearly had a big off at the second Lesmo and had to catch it off into the gravel there. So Riley's doing his darndest to try and wrap this one up on a high. Let's just hope he doesn't bin it.
That silence was there to add dramatic effect, because of course it's getting late now. We're getting close to the end of the race here, and what always I feel like I have to say for the viewers at home is, just because we've got gaps of 4, 5 seconds, 9 seconds in the top 5 here, it doesn't mean that these drivers are driving particularly slow. It just shows like the amount of effort, the amount of pace that these drivers have got in such fine margins. After 38 laps, of course they're going to drag out, of course they're going to extend here. The simple fact is, the majority of us normal folk here, if we were to go into this race, we would be struggling, absolutely struggling to keep up with the likes of Ronaldo Boersma, Jan Rochelle and Roland Stein.
Yeah, it's something that does not translate well to the screen when the gaps are big like this, is how hard the drivers are pushing. and how much they're hustling the cars. Honestly, it's one of those things that I feel like a lot of non-race fans don't really grasp in general, is the difficulty that racing is. Everybody still just thinks, there's that cliche, it's cars going around in circles. Well, you think that until you get into the car and you try to repeat what they're doing. And then you have the admiration for the kinds of athletes that real drivers are, and then the impressive feats that sim racers are able to do.
They're a bit of a different breed, Joe, aren't they? It's quite frustrating how they're able to pull it out of the bag consistently. But hey, listen, that's why some of them, I'm going to say, some of them get paid quite handsomely. Others get paid in Haribo and thank yous from their team. To be fair, I'd settle for Haribo and
I was going to say,
thank you.
My wife would probably be extremely happy if you paid her in Haribo.
I was going to say, Joe, does that make your wife your team manager?
Sometimes she is. Sometimes she keeps track of things for me. But ooh, look at this. Between Clifford and Radke, side by side, down into the first Lesmo, and the Ferrari is not going to give away. This is a battle between two Italian marks. Pride on the line between them.
Yeah, the battle of the big dogs, obviously, with Clifford involved here, but it looks like Radke just shuffling out there, 6/100ths of a second. Absolutely nothing. The two of them will be back together again, coming down that start-finish straight as Peter Duvelaar again in 12th position. He is right on the back end of Luke Harrison as we're putting back to Valentin Barry, half a second behind George Boothby. And I just don't get it. I don't get this topsy-turvy performance from Boothby. He has really struggled today, and I get the feeling that Barry might take that final top 5 position here.
Also worth noting, I just realized I think we have only one DNF today in Santema, who looks like he has parked it. I wonder if that's because of the drive-through penalty. Just decided to call it a day out there. Don't know if he had any damage that we had missed in the meantime. So we continue to watch Valentin and George try to settle who is going to finish in the top 5 in this race. Back and forth between them. Can the 800 somehow hold back Berrier in these final few moments, as at first it looked like he had the pace, then suddenly he didn't, and then now again it's switched around and switched back once more with 17 minutes left to go on the clock. I think if Valentin can keep this up to the end, I think he's got a good shot at it, because he's reeled in George up to this stage.
Absolutely spot on, and the pace is unbelievable right now from Valentin Barry, and yet again this is a classic performance from that Aston Martin. Start around about P10 and just carve your way through the field. So again, just proving how much speed is in that car as well. But what I was also noticing here is the fact that we're on to 40 laps, as you said, just over 15 minutes left to go in this race here. This is now the time to consolidate what you've done. This is time to make sure you're okay with what you've done. For the likes of Luke Harrison, for Duvelaar, they're going to be fighting. They're going to be going toe-to-toe for the remainder of the race. There's absolutely no question about it here. But again, I mean, it's struggling to believe we've already done nearly 75 minutes of this race. It is going at such a rate of knots here. But also, I do wonder here, Joe, if some of the drivers maybe turning their attention to next week already, turning their attention to that 60-minute race of Spa.
Well, they can't completely lose focus on what's in front of them right now. And, talking about one of the storylines that we had mentioned before, whether or not how many positions Bischoff is going to lose with those 10-second penalties, Moberg is, I think, getting very, very close to being 10 seconds behind. That's not too much more until Marco is going to find himself at least losing one fewer position. And maybe that's where he needs to kind of look at this one, is just limiting the damage of what he can do from here and try to bring home whatever positions he can, because it's all that's in his hand is his own pace, and that's all the best that he can do.
I was also watching Boothby again. I do wonder, maybe he's able to actually hold on to that position from Valentin Barry. The gap's still half a second right now, and it has been getting chipped away at by Barry, but again, with the class that George Boothby has, it's difficult to see how he's going to let that one go in these final 15 minutes of the race. Still, stranger things can happen. Checking in on Marco Bischoff as well with that 10-second penalty. He is now 100% going to fall behind Tobias Moberg as well, down into that 13th position, as this is coincidentally down to the fight for 14th position, because Zimbel has just lost out to Noel Hachet.
Interesting. So Zimbel going to try and get it back. I was going to say there's no room there. Coming down it, almost wheels in the grass under braking. Is he actually going to make the corner? Sends it in without any reservation, and it's not going to get him the spot. But he has my admiration for managing to woe that car up. My goodness.
There is no way he pulled that off, Joe. That is unbelievable. You could see the car absolutely squirming under braking there as he goes again, sends it up into the second of the chicanes here, still side by side, still fantastic perspective. Look at the cutback there from Zimbel there, tries to get through. It's going to be into the Lesmos here, but he's not going to do it here. Absolutely brilliant fight there between Noel Hachet and Zimbel there. So it was very, very close to tears on that one, but I think that Lamborghini is doing everything it needs to do to completely distract Noel Hachet right now. And to be fair to Hachet, incredible respect shown there to allow that Lamborghini to go side by side.
Yeah, that was fair fighting from both of them for sure. Oh, he looks a little out of sorts compared to Zimbel coming through the Ascari chicane. This could be a great opportunity for Zimbel. Once again, he is on him, but once again, Noel is just trying to block him off and prevent him from taking that inside line into the corners, knowing if he just parks it on the apex like that, he will force Finn to try and have to back off and actually blunt his speed onto these long straightaways. So that worked out beautifully for Noel.
Yeah, that was. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It was a perfectly fine move. It was a perfectly fine, but it was a block. I mean, it's literally he put on the brakes and just slowed down the car in the middle of the apex of the corner there, and you could see that Lamborghini almost jackknife on the spot there from Zimbel. But listen, all's fair in love and war, and at least it's given us something awesome to watch in these final, just over 10 minutes of the race here, as we cut back to this fight with Valentin Barrier and George Boothby right now.
Yes, as long as you're not Fernando Alonsoing it and absolutely coming to a halt at the apex there, all you got to do is just try and slow them up and prevent him from getting that good run down the long straightaway. And Zimbel is getting frustrated by his rival as we check in with Barrier once again. Boothby ahead of him by a frustrating 0.4 of a second. He needs to be a bit closer than this to try and get the pass done. If George can keep him at arm's length, then that, I mean, Valentin, like we said, he needs to be close enough that he can outbrake him into the corner, and all George has to do is just make sure that he's just that little bit too far back.
Yeah, and he is literally too far back to even think about anything happening there. But this battle with Zimbel and Hachet still going on. That could be a mistake from Hachet though, because he's left that inside line a little bit open as Zimbel breaks a little bit earlier, I think, trying to force that McLaren into making a mistake there. But there was still nothing happening there. Now, you did see on the bottom right of your screen, ladies and gentlemen, that was a QR code for ACC Drive. You will get that all coming up through the course of the next 10 minutes as well. We'll pop that up on various intervals as well. ACC Drive is your one-stop shop for everything Assetto Corsa Competizione, whether you need some assistance making some kick-ass setups for your leagues and championships, or you need to get an overlay for your stream or some live timing for an extra monitor. ACC Drive covers you all, and you can, for a limited time, get a lifetime license for a very, very reasonable fee. Just check out the QR code when it comes up next time and go over and get yourself your lifetime license for ACC Drive. And a huge thank you to them for giving us as that was a little bit wide there for Haché. And Joe, sometimes I get so lost in what I'm trying to say here that I almost completely miss all the action on the track.
No, I want you to pay the bills. We always want to try and do that. And for this one, though, Noel is picking it back up just when he needs to, as he was wide coming out of De La Roja, and Zimbel was trying to capitalize on it, but just wasn't close enough. That's what we mean about drivers needing to be close enough to try and do something with those mistakes. Oh, way too much curb, bounds 4 wheels into the air, and Zimbel thankfully does not send it into the wall. But surely that car has to be damaged with how hard it plowed over the sausage curb.
Hang on, did he get flight clearance from the CAA for that one? That was launched to the moon on that one. That car is, I'll tell you what, if that was a real life car, he'd be having some real back pain in that thing just now. That was a proper jaw rattler. How he didn't send that into the barrier, I've got no idea. Like, we know ACC, we know how unpredictable these cars are when they get violently shaken over the either the curbs or those sausage curbs. And yeah, amazing that that car is still going. So we cut back to the battle for P10, Marco Bischoff, Luke Harrison and Peter Duvilar. It's this is crunch time now. We're under 10 minutes left to go here. They need to get it They need to get it going here, Joe.
I think Bischoff has made a mistake, because that gap to Moberg, close to 10 seconds just a couple laps ago, is now down to about 6 or 7 seconds. So it's looking dire, unfortunately, for Bischoff, especially with Addison now only half a second behind. Duvilar also chasing him. He's going to have to fight 2 of them. Well, then honestly, even if he does fight them, he's going to wind up behind them as well. So these two, all they have to do is just ride behind that number 2 car.
Absolutely spot on. The one thing I did want to draw to our viewers' attention is the driver of the day vote has just opened. You've got 4 options tonight: Maciek Malinowski, Amadeo Casarino, Valentin Barrier and Peter Duvilar. So get your votes in on the YouTube channel and let us know who gets your driver of the day. Right, final couple of minutes then, and Monza never fails to deliver here, Joe, does it?
Yeah, and it's a unique track, especially in these days where you tend to get more technical circuits that are built in modern time. So this one, actually I believe the 3rd purpose-built racetrack after Brooklands and Indianapolis, still running today. Now the 2nd oldest still running racetrack out there. Is hard to find much that compares to it.
And I don't think there is much, because it's such a classic circuit, because it's such a legendary addition to the season here. We'll come back to that in a second, because that is Zimbel trying to get past Haché, and finally has done it. I get the feeling though, Joe, not for long, because it does feel like Haché is what's the word? Irritated, angsty. He's a little bit like jiggling all over the place right now.
He wanted to try and find his way through, but credit to Zimbel there. Placed the car smack dab in the middle of the track and forced him to try and find his way around. It's going to be compromised no matter which way he puts it.
Exactly what we want, a nice tasty little morsel to keep us going right until the end here, Joe.
Lap traffic can make or break your race sometimes, so can this McLaren manage to
overtake this lapped car quickly enough and safely enough that Honzik can't do anything to overtake him. Blue flags waving at that car, but they are informational. So that is just something to let him know that there are lapping cars coming behind him. It is up to him to decide when he allows them through. Look at Honzik showing himself a little bit. He wants to try and use that distraction of that lapped car.
5 minutes left to go in the race, and of course the big news for Jaroslav Honzik is that taking part in his first ever full season, I'm believing it's a full season, of course, racing in Europe in the Clio Cup. So I wonder how this compares, getting back in the SimRig after going toe-to-toe with some very, very tough customers, because the Clio Cup, it's a hotly contested thing here, but it's a world away from GT3 racing.
It definitely is. And coming down into the braking zone. Oh yeah, look at him. He's going to box him in. He's going to try to. They make contact and just going to make it three wide. Honzik gets shoved off. He becomes a bowling ball and runs into his fellow Aston Martin. That was the number 10. Was that another lapped car? Yes, that was Louis Alexander. So that wasn't for position, but still, I have a feeling.
Was that no that was beside him, Joe?
It may have been, actually.
I very rarely do I say this, right? And again, unfortunately, we can't see the replay of this, but from what I saw there, right, Honzik had the outside line. He played it beautifully, boxed him in behind a lapped car, and the fact that Eder tried to pull that car out, absolutely unforgivable. Two separate incidents of absolutely unneeded contact there, and poor Jaroslav Honzik, absolutely innocent passenger on that one. I will be very, very surprised if race control do not throw the book at Noah Eder after that.
Sometimes I feel like even my brain has the commentator's curse, because I was just thinking, oh, we haven't seen many penalties in a long time, and I was like, no, I'm not going to say it. And lo and behold, it happens anyways.
Do you know what though? See at turn one, we need to get like one of those little flip calendars of like number of days since a chaotic accident at turn one. Yeah, so
dry race board.
We need to go and flip that back to 0 days now.
It has been 0 laps since our last incident into Rettifilio, unfortunately. Bischoff still on Addison, but he's been overtaken, and we have to remember he's got that 10-second penalty. Duvalar behind him. Oh, is he going to be able to overtake him here? Oh, he gets down to the inside. Bischoff, I wonder, with him knowing he's got that penalty, is he just not going to fight this one? Yeah, he'll just slot back into line behind his fellow McLaren, and that is going to be Bischoff deciding to give that one up easily. And let's not forget Moberg behind them, trying to play catch-up. Last time across the line, about 6 seconds. He is still within range that he is going to take that 12th place.
Just watching here, Joe, as well, I'm gutted to see that Ronaldo Boersma having to retire from the race with just a couple of minutes left to go. That number 5 Mercedes obviously having some stricken damage. I'm going to presume that's after what we saw at the end there. Actually, no, is he just going to the pits? I just presumed, because he went into the pits with like 3 minutes left to go, that he was done and dusted. But no, he's just went in to get some potentially some tires, yeah, or fuel.
I was going to say, I bet he didn't put enough fuel in. I bet he was trying to get it to the end and just didn't quite anticipate where it was supposed to be. A little styrofoam blocks kind of knocked around there in the first corner now. Going to take a guess who caused that one, as Malinowski has taken it the white flag, and it is 1 lap to go. It is stretched out. Castorino, who at times was holding him within reach, is now up to 6.6 seconds. Maciej has put his foot down and decided there is going to be no contest on this one.
Yeah, it's a done deal already, and it takes a lot of skill to be able to do that as well, Joe. You know, because we often, you know, we'll throw water on that and go, you know, oh well, it's another big gap to the lead. But look, he's absolutely earned that that gap at the front. He's worked really damn hard to push really hard. And the thing is, as well, is you look at the lap times from the likes of Malinowski and Casarino and Riley, and you realise that, I mean, these drivers are just absolute machines, absolute consistent machines, and this is why you get the huge gaps.
Well, it's definitely impressed me, Malinowski, returning to try and see what he can do with this championship in the last few races. As he exits the final corner, he managed this one to perfection. He had the pace. I don't think we saw a single mistake out of this Porsche, and Malinowski will win at Monza.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. That's exactly what you like to see. And the thing is, as well, Casarino and Riley very well deserved second and third position as well there, Joe. All credit to them.
No, Riley's not going to get third. Caracas is in front of him. What has happened here? Grantis has moved in front of him, and he is promoted onto the podium. Riley, in the last moments, has lost this podium. His last lap, a 51.3.
What we have to remember there, Joe, they're teammates, so that's very likely a swap for position.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Interesting stuff. Well, Riley being a very gentlemanly teammate on that one to hand it over as the smoke goes up and the fireworks go off to wrap up this one. Incredibly, we only had, it looks like, I think, no, excuse me, I was looking at the wrong thing there. So I do think we have more drivers on the lead lap than I anticipated, as it looks like we are going to be left with, I think, 19 cars on the lead lap.
And that is fairly impressive here at Monza, because we always joke about how chaotic and how absolutely brutal it is. And, you know, let's ignore the fact that it was chaotic and brutal right at the last lap there, or right at the last couple of minutes there. But in all terms and seriousness, yeah, it was a good race, I think, here tonight. The drivers doing themselves proud yet again here. But my God, have we just built things up for the final 3 rounds of this championship. I did some very basic trying to understand the standings here and the scoring and put things together with the 2 drop rounds. I honestly think we're going to have about 3 or 4 drivers separated by about 5 to 10 points.
And that is it for our race. Worth noting that car 46, which is Ader, got a 15-second penalty for causing a collision, so that is added. He's going to lose some positions, and the 667, that was Barkhausen for what we saw there at the first chicane, is also going to get a time penalty, so he lost a number of positions on this one. But that leaves Malinowski, your victor here today. No question about that one. Castorino coming home in P2, and Caracas rounding out your podium of cars. Jonathan Riley winds up in P4. Then you've got, and I just lost my timing here, so here we go. Riley in 4th, Boothby finishing P5 with Berrier in 6th position. Then it's Razier in 7th and Honzik 8th, Addison P9, and Duvallard in 10th. From then on down, you get into drivers that had a bit of issues. Moberg, not so much, as he gains a position at the end with multiple penalties in front of him. Ader has to settle for 12th. Bischoff only 13th, as we often thought it was going to be. Zimbel P14. Hache was in 15th, and Doran down in 16th. Barkhausen falls to 17th with his penalty. Clifford, only 18th for him. He had a penalty earlier in this race. Radke winds up 19th after starting towards the back. Lewis Alexander, a late wreck, not his fault, sends him to 20th. Rochelle, 21st, and Stein, 22nd from the very back of the field. Boersma, Santima, and the rest will round them out. Let's see if we've got our winner ready to talk to us. I believe, yes, we do. Malinowski joining us. Maciez, fantastic run up there at the front. Congratulations on the win. But it looked like between yourself and Castorino, you two looked like you were pushing one another.
Yeah, fortunately, it was the type of race for me where I knew I had a strong car, so I didn't feel pressured necessarily at any point. Maybe a little bit at the beginning, but it was more like more of a pressure to just deliver what I know I can rather than go above and beyond. I just I knew the car is going to be strong this round. I had a setup already prepared that it just happens to be the kind of setup that I really like driving. I feel comfortable with the car on this track, so it was easy for me to deliver consistent lap times. I think that was the key today. Just deliver consistently the pace that I knew I had, and again, just like last week. Actually, I didn't get that lap registered in qualifying because the session, for a weird reason, went to another, just session skipped. I mean, I was still on a valid lap. We had to finish quali. That would be my personal best. So, yet again, super happy to get the personal best time in qualifying, which is where it matters. So, it's just that it didn't get registered because the session got forwarded to the next one. But yeah, just really happy to get that performance out of the car, and yeah.
Well, we saw that there were many trains that formed behind you, but at the start of the race, second and third were battling quite a bit. Was that something that you were kind of hoping or aiming for early to try and break the slipstream in case they kind of rode your
You see,
coattails?
we didn't want to break the description. I wanted to help George.
Ah.
Because we don't necessarily have liveries in this championship, but me, George, Valentin, Jadir, we are all race in the same team, and we always try to help each other. So it was more of a case that I wanted to help George, but that like just me and Aston Martin, we had such a great run on the opening laps, and Ferrari started battling that it was just not possible for me to stick back. Like into turn one, second corner, Corte Grande, I tried to give him a little bit of slipstream, try to engineer out some random overtake there, but it just we both had too much acceleration out of the corners, and it was impossible for me to give George anything sufficient that would give him a run on Aston Martin. So once after opening corners, so we're just two of us, we'll be gone. I just decided to do my own thing because I knew that if I give Aston Martin slipstream, which he stayed in for majority of initial laps, I knew I would be under some little bit of pressure, and with his top speed, there could be some overtaking opportunity. So I just focused on myself from the very, very beginning when I saw that Ferraris will be behind us, and just control the pace from there when I managed to break the slipstream.
We were talking during the race how the remaining rounds have quite some impressive tracks, some really legendary and also difficult ones.
That is true.
How do you feel about looking forward? I believe Spa is next.
Well, I like Spa. I really like that track. Watkins Glen is a really exciting track, but a one that I have very little experience on, so I always struggle there because I just never found the time to sit down and practice that track and just get experience there. So that's gonna be a struggle, and I know that Nordschleife for my car is gonna be a struggle because Porsche just doesn't perform with mid downforce setup there and the right height restrictions that we have on Nordschleife. I'll have to try to play with the setup for Nords, but it's very easy to. I don't know if it's the downforce that's stalling because the cars are so much higher in the air than on other tracks. The car has weird downforce issues, which at Nordschleife you can just clearly see that that's the case. While, for example, today I was able to run the car extremely low and then it performs really well. So I was able to just have a car that's so nice to drive. I enjoyed this race so much, every single lap of it, because the car was just beautiful to drive. But Nordschleife is going to be an issue in that regard.
Well, we'll look out for you. I guess you'll have to get some practice in. And again, congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much.
So that was Maciej Malinowski, your winner here today, followed up by the man who's also second in the points, Amadeo Castorino. Let's have a chat with him and see how he felt about coming home P2, knowing that he beat his main rival. Amadeo, not the victory on home soil that we saw back in Imola, but I'm sure still important to you.
being so far ahead of Boothby at the end of the race, would you still count this race a positive for you?
Yeah, I think at the end I can count it as a positive race also because can't do much more because Malinowski have just a better pace than me. Only on the first lap with the slipstream I was able to stay with him, but also I made a tiny mistake and I lose 2/10 and I lose the slipstream, and yeah, he was faster, so lap by lap I was losing like 1/2. Especially in the last phase of the stint, he was more fast a lot, and also in the second stint he was way faster than me. In fact, at the end I finished the race by 7 seconds behind him. But yeah, at the end it's good because I gained some points on Boothby, but I think also Malinowski is not that far in the championship now with this win, so I think it's like a battle uh, between three us for the championship.
Certainly looks like that, and this would be your fourth podium of the season. We always kind of talk about how you're Mr. Consistency. Is that something you pride yourself in, just continually bringing home these good finishes?
Yeah, it's what I'm aiming to do because 12 races, I think like be consistent is the main thing for win the championship or achieve a good result. So yeah, I'm just racing like don't take stupid risk, like be calm and like that.
Well, again, this was an impressive one out there. You certainly it seemed like kept Malinowski honest in the early stages and had amazing speed compared to the rest. Anybody else want to thank before you go?
Um, Nothing really today. No one in mind. I will take only for the win because will be too many person every time.
It's understandable. That's Amadeo Castorino, your second place finisher today. And that brings us to Grantis Caracas, who has managed to finish on the podium, but he leaves us with an important question. Grantis, we saw that position change hands on the last lap of the race. Did your teammate hand that over to you intentionally?
Well, kinda, yes. He was struggling with fuel to finish the race. He had too little fuel. He underfueled a bit. He tried to be more aggressive for the pit stop. To have a bit less fuel to be a bit quicker for the second stint. So unfortunately, that didn't pay off for him. So he had to save the fuel, and I wasn't too far away. And because of the championship, I'm still in some sort of a fight for top 3 at least. Just gave that position to me, so he didn't mind. So yeah, it was just like 50-50.
You seem to be a sort of hot or cold driver because I'm looking through your results this season. It's either 6th or better or 22nd or worse. How do you see those results? Is that something that you want to improve upon, or do you not worry about that and just keep looking at each race on its own?
Well, all of these 22nd places and above, 2 of them were not up to me. My game crashed, so there were some technical issues with my computer. So now everything's fixed, so I'm not worried about that. I'm happy with my pace. A bit of a shame that my championship just slipped out of my hands like that, because I would have been leading otherwise, if not these 2 races, or at least one of them. But yeah, for the next season and maybe at the end of the season, still something can happen, and for the next season I can fight for P1 again, hopefully.
Well, again, I guess don't open any strange files being sent to you by your competitors before the last race now that you've got it working well, and congratulations on 3rd.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.
So there it is, our podium finishers here today at Monza. David, man, what an odd race that we had out there today. Very different from what we witnessed at Donington, and definitely threw us a few curveballs.
It absolutely did, and I'm not going to lie, it did sound like Amadeo and our third place driver there. Yeah, they really couldn't wait to get that race over and done with. It was bizarre, and not in the usual absolute mayhem way that we usually have. There was quite a few incidents, but yeah, that was really strange. A lot of questions left to us rather than answers. Just to confirm, Maciek Malinowski also taking driver of the day as well. But it's time for the wheel, Joe, and I think we've got driver participation wheel, and then we'll have our viewer participation wheel as well.
All right, let's see who wins today's prize. As they spin, these are all the drivers that took part in today's event. And Noel Hache is going to come home with, I believe it is 10% off. David, you'll have to help me on this.
It's a 1-month subscription to Coach Dave Delta. It is, and don't worry because I completely forgot what that was as well. Do you know what it is though? It's because there's so many awesome prizes in this prize pool. It's things like this. Like we brought this on obviously to reward the drivers for taking part and staying to the end here, because we've done loads of different championships here, Joe. We know what it's like. Some of the drivers are just like, yeah, I've done 3 races and it's not going well, so I'm just going to bail and do something else. And that's absolutely, they're entitled to do that. But yeah, it's great to see them getting rewarded and getting a little bit of something just for taking part in the race. But in the meantime, I believe we're away to move on to our viewer participation wheel. And yet again, my name is not on there.
All right, let's see whose name is as we take a spin and find out our winner. This one, I do remember, this is $10 on Steam. And Demian Goats looks like he is going to have some money to spend on the games of his choice. So congratulations to Demian Goats for winning our viewer lottery on this one. All right, then. I think that just about wraps us up for this afternoon's racing here at Monza. Thank you once again for joining us on Genisus Risk. We are going to be back for June 12th at Spa for another fantastic circuit at round 10. But in the meantime, on behalf of myself, David Christie, and Daniel Costello, thank you for tuning in. Race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.